Hi, I'm Cheryl. I've got a beautiful wedding card. It is June, so I did this wedding wishes card, and then inside it says, wishing you a marriage made in heaven and a lifetime blessed by God. And this was from, all the stamps I used are from the, let me see if I can get this in here. I have my camera adjusted down lower, from the Rose Wonder stamp set. So we've got this really big rose. It doesn't look that big on the front, but it's big. And there's the wedding wishes, and then the wishing you a marriage made in heaven over here. So I'm using those stamps today. And we'll need some Whisper White cardstock. And that's 5.5 by 8.5. It's scored and folded at 4 1/4. That's our card base. I have a piece of watercolor paper, and this is 3 3/4 by 5. I'll keep that out because we'll be needing that pretty soon. Some basic black and cherry cobbler. The black is 5 1/4 by 4, and the cherry cobbler is 5.5 by 4 1/4. So that's going to be, we're going to do a double mat with these. Got my Tombow glue. Always have my Tombow glue. I also have this little plastic packaging from a punch that I got, and I have a damp sponge. We'll be using that. Got some paper towel because we're going to be using our Aqua Painter. And off to the side where you can't see it, I have a little tub of water, and you'll see what I need that for in a little bit. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black, the Stampin' Up Rose Red, and the Tranquil Tide. So forgive me if I don't get things right in the camera lens, because this isn't, I don't usually have it this close. And then I have discovered gilding flakes, and I've been playing a lot with these. I really like them. I got the Nuvo ones, but there's a lot of different ones out there. They have gold, silver, and copper, but I've seen ones that's all different mixes that are really pretty stuff. But I'm trying to limit myself to just the ones that the gold, silver, and copper for now. And then I have kind of a scratchy sponge. I'll be using that too with the gilding flakes. And I think that's it. Yeah, so we're going to start out. We have our piece of watercolor paper, and I have my Rose Wonder stamp. You see how big that is? Mounted on a very big block. And I'm going to, and I'm not going to ink it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some Tombow glue and my damp sponge here, and I'm going to kind of ink it with the Tombow glue. And let me get a little glob of Tombow out here. See? And I'm going to take my sponge, my damp sponge, and get Tombow glue on there. And you want to move kind of fast here. This is a big stamp, and I think I need more Tombow. I'll squirt a little more out. Like I said, we want to move pretty quick because we don't want the glue to dry on the stamp, and we don't want it to adhere our stamp to the paper. That's why I'm using the damp sponge to help keep the glue wet for a little longer. And then it just barely fits on this piece of watercolor paper. So let me see. There I go. I got that pressed down, and I'll quickly peel that off. And now I have my glue, which I don't think you can see it, but that's okay. Now off to the side here that you can't see, I have a tub of water, and this stamp is going right into that water. Normally I would take it right to the sink and wash that off. Now we have to let this glue dry before we go any further. But I happen to have one here that I did earlier, and it's already dry, I hope. We'll see in a second, won't we? And we're going to put that on a big old piece of scrap paper here, because we're going to gild that outline. And it's nice that the gilding kind of acts as a resist. Now, if you don't want to do the gilding flakes deal, you could always do this with your Versamark and some silver embossing powder. But like I said, I'm having a lot of fun with these gilding flakes, so I'm using them. So it's just a little something else that maybe you might want to try, and just rub them all over my card here where I've got the glue. Now they also sell, everybody who sells these gilding flakes, they also have their own glues. And let's see, the Nuvo people have these glue pens, and I did get the big one and the medium one, and I got also a Zig two-way glue, and this is like the Tombow. It dries sticky. That's what you need for the gilding flakes. So I got that pretty well covered. And let me pick up some of these bigger pieces, put it right back in the tub. Now I've been using these, and every time I open this tub, they still just kind of pop up. And when you're using gilding flakes, you do not want anything that moves air going. I mean, nothing, no fan, no air conditioner, nothing. Because the only things that I've seen float like these gilding flakes is my cat's hair. Oh, you definitely don't want to sneeze on them. That would make a heck of a mess. So now I'm just using the sponge. I'm going to remove all the excess on here. Let me just tap that off here. And you see, now it's got beautiful silver gilding, and you could actually use this with just like this. It is so pretty. And I have all of this, and I keep my excess. I have a little tub, and this is assorted gilding flakes. So I've got copper and silver and gold, just the little bits that are left. And I've got a couple cards I made that I'm going to demo too. And I don't know, when I get a chance to make the video. So I'm going to use this assortment that I have here. You know, I can put that aside. I don't need that. Oh, let me get that sponge into the water too. I don't care so much about that little plastic gizwiz, because it was just, I mean, it's just basically, it's trash. Okay, so we've got this done, and we're going to do some watercoloring on this. And that's where we'll bring in our Tranquil Tide and our Rose Red. Let's start with the Rose Red, because that's the most fun part, because it's the rose. And I just squeezed my ink pad and made myself a nice little pool of ink here to work from. And I'll take my Aqua Painter, and off the side here I'm going to just put a little drop down here of water. And I'm going to want that pretty light, because I'm just going to go over all the rose parts. Just light. So that does two things. It gives us a little color base of that pale pink, and it also wets this area, because we're going to be dropping in some more color. Okay, and there we go. So that's all colored in there. Now I'm going to take some a little heavier color here. I'm going to start dropping that in. I'm going to drop in quite a bit more towards the center here. And I'll just go any place I think there might be a shadow, I'm going to add some more. So there. And you see, I'm not making myself too crazy about this. Watercolor is just, oh, I don't know how to describe it. It's just watercolor is just kind of an accident anyway. Because you never know where your paint's going to run exactly. It's going to depend on the paper fibers and just how much water you have down and how wet or dry it is. And you see there where I just put that little bit down, that it'd start to dry there, so I have a harder line there, which I'm going to come back to that because I don't really want a real hard line. I'm going to blend that in a little bit there. Okay, and I think I want some more color. I want some more of that red. I'm just going to dot it in now. And so, but you do really want to use watercolor paper when you're doing a watercolor technique. Get some more over here, kind of balance the dark colors. Okay. Oh, that could be smoothed out a little. Maybe I'll do a little bit here. Alright. Maybe a little more. Because this will dry. This will dry just a little bit lighter. I like to have the centers of my rose dark. Okay, so that rose is pretty well done. Let's move on to the leaves, shall we, boys and girls? Close this up. And I got a little bit of flakes there I didn't scrub off. Let me get that off of there real quick there. Okay, so I've got a nice little pool of the green going here. I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the rose. I'm just going to put a little bit of water down here and just a very light green. I'm just going to go over the leaves and just do the entire leaf like this. Okay, now before that dries, I'm going to add my color. I learned my lesson on the rose. The parts start to dry. So now I'm just going to drop in some more like real heavy color just right down the center vein of the leaf. Okay, do you see how that is? And when I picked it up, it ran a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, that's the nature of watercolor. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on this leaf. I'm going to do one at a time. Okay, and I'll pick up some of the dark green, and same deal. I'm just going to go right down the center here and just drop in some of that dark green. This is such a pretty color. It's one of the new in colors Stampin' Up! Came out with. I like it a lot. It's the Tranquil Tide. It's kind of a teal green color. And same on this leaf. Drop in the color. Just let it flow where it wants. And the last one right here. And just drop that green in. Okay. On my sample card I did some spattering. I think I'll do that again on here. I was thinking of maybe, you know what, I think maybe I will, no, I'll do the spattering. I was thinking maybe instead I would do some rhinestones or something like that. But no, I don't think so. So I'm spattering the green, so I'm going to cover my rose like this. I just have my paper towel here. And to spatter paint, you just have something hard, like, well, you can use your finger. My finger's not that hard, but it works. And you just whack your paintbrush. Of course, you have to have a little color in it. Whack your paintbrush on the edge of that, or you could use, a pencil or a pen or whatever, and you can kind of direct where it goes. See, I've got some nice spatter going there. I want a little green spatter down here too. Yeah, and a little more color on there. I'm also getting this all over my mat and the little PVC thingy I have here to hold my camera. So I'll have a nice mess to clean up later. Okay, so I've got it spat. Oh, I need a little bit in this corner. Can't neglect that little corner there. There we go. Got a nice little spatter there. I'll clean my brush out, and we'll go back to the rose red, add some rose red spatters. Come on. There we go. Finally got all that green out. I'm just gonna blot this a little bit. Get those dry. And I'm just gonna spatter the rose red over all of it. And if some of it happens to fall in leaf, well, that's all right, because it makes it kind of interesting. Okay, and here we go. And there. So let me see. I should have a piece of white for the inside, and I don't seem to have it. Let me grab a piece. I keep pieces cut. I cut them at 5.5 by 4 1/4, so then I can just grab one. And I want it smaller though, because it's going to go on the inside of my card. I don't want to cover like the. Oh, you know what? The inside of the card is white. That's why I don't have a piece for the inside. I swear I'm losing my mind some days. So we're going to open this up. Let me wipe up some of this so I don't get it where I don't want it. I'm opening my card and I'm folding it the other way so that only the part that will be only the part that will be used for our inside sentiment will be exposed. So here we go. I'm going to try to keep it towards the corners here. Okay, so we got some nice rose red there. Let me clean it off. Doing a lot of pen cleaning. I'm just out of water too here. Okay, and then I'll spatter a little bit of the Tranquil tide on there too. So this will be on the inside, so it'll have a little spatter, just to make it a little more interesting on the inside too. And kind of ties it in with the front. Okay, so now I'm gonna See if I can find a fairly clean spot on my paper towel. And I'll just block that. And I can close it up and put it aside. And we'll bring this back in. Oh, I see a big old spot there. That's wet. I don't want this wet. Ideal is to let this dry before you stamp your Wedding Wishes stamp on the front. But I want to keep things moving. I don't want to make you listen to a hot to a heat tool blowing for a couple minutes. So let me ink that up real well, and I'm going to stamp it right about there. Looks good to me. And there we go. Looking pretty good, huh? I know. It's a pretty card. Okay. So, while the inside's drying a little bit better, let's put the front of the card together. And I didn't pop anything up on it, but you certainly could if you want. I'm going to put some Tombow glue on the back of my piece of basic black here. I'm just going to center that on the piece of cherry cobbler. I think I might have called this rose red when we started the video. I'm not sure now, but it's not. It's cherry cobbler. It's a real deep, rich red. And then we'll do the same on the back of our watercolor paper. Want that glued down real well, because it does tend, even the watercolor paper tends to warp. And cardstock, try to do this on cardstock, it'd be even worse with the warping. So we'll put that down. And I'm using the Tombow because it gives me just that little bit extra time to get everything all lined up here, and I like to have things lined up. There we go. So the front of our card is ready. Oh, I don't want to close that, because now we have to do the inside. So I'm bringing the card base. We've got all our nice little splatters here. They're pretty well dry now. And I'll ink up the other stamp that we're using. I'm wishing you a marriage made in heaven and a lifetime blessed by God. How nice is that? And I have it lined up on my stamp, or on my stamp block. That I always find that helps me line things up a little bit better if I do that. And so there we've got just our nice little splatter and our sentiment on the inside. And we can take the front and turn it over, and we'll put Tombow glue on here. And we're almost done. Here we go. Make a nice little squiggle down the middle. And that will cover our entire card front. Here's another little tip. This is how I like to line up the fronts of the cards. So I can just line it up on my table like this and tap it, and everything is lined up perfectly on the front. And there we go. So if you've liked this video, then be sure to hit that like button down below. I really like that when I see likes. If you'd like to see more of my videos, then be sure to hit subscribe. And all the materials and tools and glues and stuff that I used will be listed down below. That's not to say you shouldn't use what you have. If you have something similar to this, go ahead and use it. It's your card. I'll never see it, probably. But use what you have, right? And y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.